The night of September 26, 2014, began like many others in Iguala, Mexico. But darkness soon fell, and with it, terror. 43 students from the Ayotzinapa Rural Teachers College vanished. These young men, on their way to a protest, were swallowed whole by the night. The students had commandeered buses, a common practice for their journey. It was a routine act that turned deadly. As they passed through Iguala, they encountered local police. Gunfire erupted. Chaos. 6 students lay dead, their futures extinguished in a hail of bullets. The surviving students were herded onto vehicles by masked men. Their destination, unknown. Their fate, a mystery that would haunt Mexico and the world.
Witnesses spoke of a night of terror, of screams swallowed by the darkness. The missing students became ghosts, their faces plastered on posters, their names whispered in prayers.
The disappearance of 43 young men training to be teachers struck a nerve. The question echoed, who was responsible for this act of barbarity?
In the wake of the disappearances, the Mexican government launched an investigation. But from the outset, it was riddled with inconsistencies, missteps, and allegations of a cover-up. The official narrative, pieced together by the government, was met with skepticism and outright disbelief. The authorities claimed that the students had been killed by a local drug gang, their bodies incinerated in a nearby landfill. This explanation, however, failed to quell the growing public outrage. Forensic evidence was disputed. Eyewitness accounts contradicted the official version of events. Allegations of torture and coerced confessions from suspects further fueled suspicions of a cover-up.
The bungled investigation, instead of bringing closure, only deepened the mystery. It became painfully clear that powerful forces were at play, seeking to bury the truth beneath a mountain of lies and deceit. The disappearance of the 43 students brought into sharp focus the devastating consequences of Mexico's drug war. This relentless conflict, fueled by demand from the north and the vast profits of the illegal drug trade, had ravaged the country for years. Cartels, with their vast wealth and networks of power, operated with impunity, their tentacles reaching into the highest levels of government. The drug war had created a climate of fear and violence. Communities lived under the shadow of cartel control. Corruption was rampant.
The Ayotzinapa case, it became tragically clear, was not an isolated incident. The students had become pawns in a deadly game, victims of a system where power and money trumped justice and the rule of law.
As news of the students' disappearance spread, it sparked outrage and condemnation, not only within Mexico but also internationally. Human rights organizations, foreign governments, and international bodies like the United Nations demanded a thorough and transparent investigation. Despite the international scrutiny, local authorities in the state of Guerrero, where the students vanished, appeared to be engaged in a concerted effort to obstruct justice. Evidence pointed to collusion between local police, government officials, and members of the Guerreros Unidos cartel.
The case became a lightning rod, exposing the deep divisions within Mexican society. On one side stood the families of the victims, human rights activists, and ordinary citizens demanding justice. On the other, a web of power and influence, determined to protect its own, to bury the truth at any cost. The battle for Ayotzinapa became a microcosm of a larger struggle for the soul of Mexico.
Section 5. Whispers in the dark text messages and the unveiling of a conspiracy. As the investigation into the Ayotzinapa case dragged on, a breakthrough emerged from an unexpected source: text messages. Journalists recovered from the phones of cartel members. These digital whispers revealed a chilling narrative of collusion and complicity, exposing the intricate web of corruption that had allowed such a heinous crime to occur. The messages showed cartel members communicating with police officers, local politicians, and even military personnel. Journalists, they discussed bribes, received instructions, and coordinated efforts to silence anyone who threatened to expose the truth about what had happened to the students. The messages provided a glimpse into the dark underbelly of power in Mexico, where the lines between law enforcement and organized crime had become blurred. Journalists, they revealed a system where loyalty was bought and sold, where human lives were treated as disposable pawns in a deadly game. The recovered messages sent shockwaves through Mexican society. Section 6. The Long Road to Justice. Aching Hearts and Unanswered Questions. Years after the disappearance of the 43 Ayotzinapa students, the quest for justice continues. Family member. The families of the missing, their hearts heavy with grief and anger, have refused to let the case fade from memory. They have marched, protested, and challenged the government at every turn, demanding answers and accountability. Family member. Their struggle has been long and arduous. While some progress has been made, with a number of arrests and prosecutions, the full truth about what happened that night in Iguala remains elusive. Family member. Many key questions remain unanswered. The whereabouts of the missing students, the extent of the conspiracy, and the motivation behind their disappearance continue to haunt the nation. Family member. The fight for Ayotzinapa has become a symbol of a broader struggle for a more just and equitable Mexico. Section 7. A Nation on Trial, the Ayotzinapa Case and Mexico's Reckoning. The disappearance of the 43 students has forced Mexico to confront uncomfortable truths about itself. Government official. It has exposed the deep-seated corruption that infects its institutions, the corrosive effects of the drug war, and the vulnerability of ordinary citizens in the face of unchecked power. The Ayotzinapa case has become a watershed moment in Mexican history, a national trauma that has shaken the country to its core. Government official. It has sparked a debate about the role of the government, the rule of law, and the very nature of justice in a society grappling with violence and impunity. The case has also highlighted the deep divisions within Mexican society. Government official. On one side stand those who demand accountability, transparency, and an end to corruption. On the other, those who benefit from the status quo, who seek to maintain their grip on power and silence dissenting voices.
Section 8. Echoes of impunity, past atrocities, present struggles.
The Ayotzinapa case, while shocking in its brutality, is sadly not an isolated incident in Mexico's recent history. It echoes other atrocities, other instances where the state has failed to protect its citizens, where justice has been elusive.
The Tlatelolco Massacre of 1968. The Aguas Blancas Massacre of 1995. The disappearance of 43 migrants in San Fernando in 2010. These are just a few examples of the violence and impunity that have plagued Mexico for decades.
These incidents, often shrouded in secrecy and met with official denials, have created a climate of fear and distrust.
Section 9. The weight of silence, fear, intimidation, and the struggle for truth.
One of the most disturbing aspects of the Ayotzinapa case has been the climate of fear and silence that has surrounded it. Witnesses have been intimidated, journalists threatened, and human rights defenders harassed.
This culture of silence is a direct result of the impunity enjoyed by criminal organizations and their collaborators within the government.
The families of the missing students, however, have refused to be silenced. They have shown extraordinary courage in the face of danger, speaking out for their loved ones, demanding justice, and challenging the official narrative.
Section 10. A Glimmer of Hope, International Pressure and the Push for Reform.
While the Ayotzinapa case has exposed the dark underbelly of Mexican society, it has also sparked a glimmer of hope. The international outcry, the pressure from human rights organizations and foreign governments, has forced Mexico to confront its demons.
The government has been forced to create a special prosecutor's office to investigate the case, to allow for international forensic experts to participate in the investigation, and to take steps to address the issue of forced disappearances in the country.
While these steps are a positive development, they are just a first step on a long road to reform. Much more needs to be done to address the root causes of violence and impunity in Mexico, to strengthen the rule of law, and to restore public trust in the government.
Section 11, A Legacy of Loss, A Fight for the Future, Remembering Ayotzinapa.
The disappearance of the 43 Ayotzinapa students is a tragedy that continues to haunt Mexico. It is a story of loss, of injustice, of a system that failed to protect its most vulnerable citizens.
The legacy of the 43 students will live on in the hearts of their families, in the tireless work of human rights defenders, and in the ongoing struggle for a more just and equitable Mexico.
The fight for Ayotzinapa is a fight for the future of Mexico. It is a fight for a country where all citizens are equal before the law, where justice is blind, and where the voices of the silenced can finally be heard.
The memory of the 43 students must serve as a beacon, guiding Mexico towards a brighter future, a future where such tragedies are never repeated.